Governor, what does a win look like for us in Ukraine, for Ukraine?
Well, I think it's important to point out, I mean, the fear of kind of Russia going into NATO countries and all that and steamrolling, that has not even come close to happening. I think they've shown themselves to be a third-rate military power. I think they've suffered tremendous losses. I got to think that the people in Russia are probably disapproving of what's going on. I don't think they can speak up about it for obvious reasons. So I think Russia has been really wounded here, and I don't think that they are the same threat to our country, even though they're hostile. I don't think they're on the same level as a China.
So as we get ready to go into the 2024 presidential cycle, get ready to have to suffer more rambling and babbling from the likes of Ron DeSantis as he tries to brush up on his foreign policy bona fides. Here, though, something very interesting happened in this very short 43-second clip. Ron DeSantis showed where his true loyalties lie. Take a listen very clearly to the question that was asked of him by the Fox News anchor. They were not asking about his general position as it pertains to Russia. They weren't asking about the losses that Russia suffered. They were asking about what a win looks like specifically in Ukraine. And instead of speaking of that, Ron DeSantis, who knows very little about foreign policy other than his time that he spent at Guantanamo Bay supervising torture, other than that, he does not know foreign policy beyond his commitment to one thing. This is the most important thing. Watch the clip again. This is the Republican Party's goal in this season of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Their goal is to play down the threat that Russia actually is. They want to make sure that no one in the United States sees Russia as an actual threat and plays down. This is the key part. Plays down Russia's aggression. Take a listen again.
Governor, what does a win look like for us in Ukraine, for Ukraine?
Well, I think it's important to point out, I mean, the fear of kind of Russia going into NATO countries and all that and steamrolling, that has not even come close to happening. I think they've shown themselves to be a third-rate military.
Let's stop right there. Russia has not gone into any NATO countries steamrolling. That's actually true. But I don't think he understands why. The reason Russia has not steamrolled into any NATO nation is because of Article 5 of NATO, the collective defense agreement amongst all NATO nations. And so Russia, of course, is not going to show their aggression towards the United States or towards the West or towards NATO, because any act of aggression towards NATO is an act of aggression towards every nation. If Russia attacks a NATO nation, it's the same as attacking the United States of America. Now, I'm sure Ron DeSantis will know that pretty good in about 3 weeks, 3 months, or however long it takes his foreign policy advisors to tell him that. That was not the question, however. The question was, what is a win in Ukraine? And what does Ron DeSantis do? He pivots. And instead of discussing a victory in Ukraine, he wants to bring attention to the fact that he doesn't believe that Russia is a threat or that Russia is even aggressive. And how does he justify it? By a sleight of hand. We're not talking about Russia's non-aggression towards NATO-specific nations. We're talking about Russia's invasion of the sovereign nation of Ukraine. And Ron DeSantis cannot answer that because Republicans in the United States of America have a commitment to supporting Vladimir Putin for reasons I will explain in one moment. Let's listen again to this clip.
Tremendous losses. I got to think that the people in Russia are probably disapproving of what's going on. I don't think they can speak up about it for obvious reasons. So I think
now here, Ron DeSantis is trying to make it seem as though he disapproves of the authoritarianism that takes place in Russia. Yes, it's true that many Russians who oppose the war are unable to speak up about it because if they do, they will be arrested for obvious reasons, as Ron DeSantis said here. But Ron DeSantis is not bringing this up because he disapproves of that. Ron DeSantis is bringing this up because he needs plausible deniability. He needs to be able to pretend as though he disapproves of Russia's imperialism, as though he disapproves of Russia's authoritarianism, and somewhat give him insulation from appearing as though he is an accomplice with this pan-reactionary movement, this global reactionary movement that looks at Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, there are people across this country and across this world, including Ron DeSantis, who look at Vladimir Putin and what he's doing in Russia and what he's doing in Ukraine, and they use that as a model for what they want this new world order to be, this new religious, orthodox, theocratic, fascist state. This is what Ron DeSantis wants, and he sees that Vladimir Putin is the type of person who is moving in that direction. And so he cannot come out and say that he supports Vladimir Putin like Steve Bannon did. He can't come out and say that he supports Vladimir Putin like Tucker Carlson did. He can't come out and make it seem as though he's okay with the imperialism and the aggression of Russia, because there are a few Republicans who are still opposed to Russia. There are still a few Republicans left in this country who are not in league and in bed with Russia. Very few. Ron DeSantis is trying to play both sides of the coin here. He wants to pacify those Republicans who do oppose Vladimir Putin, and he wants to pacify all of those many Republicans who support Vladimir Putin. And he's doing his best to split the difference here. Let's watch the rest of it.
Has been really wounded here, and I don't think that they are the same threat to our country, even though they're hostile. I don't think they're on the same level as a China.
Right.
And there you have it. So he is trying to play down the aggression of Russia, who has made it clear that they are in a war with the United States of America. Now, this is their propaganda. They're not technically in a war with the United States of America, but they're making it seem as though they are waging a holy war against the West, which is inclusive of the United States of America, as well as NATO and any liberal democracy across the globe. This is what Russia is making it seem as though they are waging a holy war against, because Russia has a very specific vision for the future. Not just Russia. I want to say specifically Vladimir Putin. He has a very specific vision for the future that is hyper-religious. And when I say hyper-religious, I'm talking about a very specific brand of white supremacist Christianity, Christian nationalism, Orthodox Christianity. That is his religion. He also has a thing against democracy, if you can't tell, which is why he invaded the sovereign nation, the democratic nation of Ukraine. He cracks down on democracy internally as well as externally. And Ron DeSantis from Florida loves that. Ron DeSantis loves the authoritarianism of Russia, but of Vladimir Putin, but he can't admit it because Vladimir Putin is still persona non grata on the national stage, and Ron DeSantis wants to run for president one day. But the truth of the matter is, underneath all of this, all of his rambling and lack of knowledge on foreign policy, underneath all of his posturing, trying to pacify both sides of the Republican Party, the overwhelming group of the Republicans who support Vladimir Putin, and then that very small group of Republicans who still have political and economic power, who can still help Ron DeSantis win the presidency. He doesn't want to upset them because they oppose Vladimir Putin. When the truth of the matter is, Ron DeSantis is 100% in line with the thinking, the vision, and the new world order that is being offered by Vladimir Putin to the broader global community, in opposition to keywords like liberal democracy, in opposition to quote unquote wokeness, in opposition to critical race theory. They need a global, Republicans like Ron DeSantis are looking for a global ally that they can align themselves with in their war against anything that is not a white Christian man. And this is what Ron DeSantis is doing in this video. I don't care how many ways he tries to play it both ways or tries to create plausible deniability. We know exactly who he is, and we know what side he is on. And it's not on the side of America. It's on the side of Vladimir Putin. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.